Okay, my name's Ty Denny. This is a story that you're probably not going to believe. Okay, when I was younger, I was very sick. I had a blood disorder, very sick child. I had a blood disorder called spherocytosis. It's very close to sickle cell anemia. And now, the story I'm about to tell you is about aliens. And you're probably already think I'm nuts and probably clicking off, and that's cool. But I was very sick, and I was visited by, I've been visited by aliens my whole entire life. Aliens, extraterrestrials, interdimensional beings, whatever you want to call them, I don't know what they are. um, so, to pretty much sum it up, when I was very little, I don't remember if the first time I ever seen them was when I was a little kid in the hallway. When I was little, we lived in a trailer and we had this big hallway, or if it was the first time I seen him was when I was in the hospital. I don't remember for some reason, but I'm going to try to make this story under an hour. But basically, I'm going to get to the part where they were studying my blood disease. You know, people think this is so hard to believe, and I don't know why. But they were studying my blood disease. I had a blood disorder. It's a mutation of a blood cell. It kind of has like a little tail, like a sperm, and the spleen thinks it's bad and it kills it. And basically, your immune system attacks itself. Well, okay, when I was little, they started visiting me. I would throw my covers over my head because I didn't want to see them. Sometimes I would take them off. Sometimes they would pull them off me. Not mean, but like gently pull them. Um, when they come, when I was actually now they totally paralyzed me. But when I was younger, they would tell me to get out of bed or whatever, or at the hospital. Um, they used to one of the very first things they would do is they would pull my hair out like a strand of hair, and I hated it when they did this because it hurt. So I would tell them don't pull my hair, and then I would say I'd do it, and they would say okay, but they only wanted me to pull from one spot of my head, and that was, well, of course you can't probably see it, but it's like right here. That's the area they wanted me to pull the hair out. So I would pull out the hair and give it to them. They never talked verbally to me. They only, talked. I guess it's telepathically to me. Um, they studied my blood disease. They also did other things to me. They had this funny tool. It was kind of hook shaped. It was really thick, and it was made out of a material I would call like it actually looks like, I don't know. Most people don't work in the aircraft industry, so they probably don't know what clad is. But it looked like clad. It's a type of aluminum, or alimento, depending on what part of the world you live in. It was kind of hook shaped, and they would see my fingernails. See how long my fingernails are? Like I can literally trim my fingernails in a week. They'll be this long again. I don't do nothing to them, honestly. I work a dirty, hard, nasty job, and they still grow this fast. But they would take the outside of my fingernail, the outside part. Actually, let me find a good one. Hold up so you can see it. They would actually scrape the tool on my fingernail onto like a gray plate. You know what I mean? Like a dark gray plate. And they would scrape my fingernail. They would also scrape my skin with this same tool. And I guess they were taking a fingernail sample, a skin sample, and hair samples. Um, this happened um, between 19. Well, the medical stuff happened between 1983. I was 3 years old is when I started remembering this. It may have been going on before then. Between 1983 and probably about 1986 is when the medical stuff. They never did sexual experiments on me. Well, I don't think they could have. I was too young. Um, they did take blood from me. They did take blood from me. I do remember that. They had a funny needle that worked itself. It like moved itself to where it needed to be. Um, they were, you know, not mean by any means. They never hurt me. They never snatched me. They never held me down. But they could, what I call a brain lock, or somehow they can paralyze you or make you paralyzed. I don't know how they do it. It's very weird. They can like just totally knock one side of your body where you can't even move it. You know, I mean, or they can do like both arms or legs, or they can do your whole body. Well, they did the hair thing, they did the fingernail thing, they did the skin thing. I do remember them taking blood from me a couple times, which that was nothing unusual. I was so sick and always in the hospital, and I always had stuff like that done, so it was just like no big deal, you know. Um, then, as I started getting better, I had my spleen removed, not by the aliens, but by doctors. I had my spleen removed, and it was shortly, it was probably about 3 years after my spleen was removed. They quit doing the actual medical, and they started doing more educational things with me. Like they would make me watch, at the time, which was like the weirdest thing in the world, like flat screen monitors, which back in like 85, 86, there was no such thing as a flat screen monitor. I mean, Star Trek didn't even have flat screen monitors, you know. They would have me watch flat screen monitors of war, and like war, you know, like World War II, and like things blowing up, people getting shot, to see my reaction. And then they would educate me on how war is bad. It destroys artifacts, it destroys history, all kinds of things about how war is horrible. And then as uh, well, I guess I should go back to when I'm younger. I don't want to jump too far ahead. But one time they took me, and I never ever remember walking on board of a ship. I never remember being beamed on a board a ship. I never remember being teleported on a ship. But somehow I would get on the ships, and they had the small transport ships, which would fit like 3 aliens and me. And at the time, I was about the size of the aliens. Um, and then we would go to the bigger ships. Now, this is part of the story that I really need to get into, because this is probably the weirdest, not weirdest, but one of the things that, you know, maybe somebody out there in YouTube land might have a recollection of this. They might remember something of this. But we went onto this ship. It is a very big ship. I'm talking like a city-sized ship, you know. And for some reason, the aliens, they they liked me. They became like, we became friends. I know that sounds so strange. Well, um, they took me aboard the ship, and they're showing me around. And there's other aliens. They're not all the same. Not clones. They don't look the same. They don't act the same. Even though like people say the Xenon Reticuli and the Greys are like biological robots or something, and that's not true. They definitely have different personalities. They do look different. You know, they look odd, but they do look different. They have different facial features, and they're not all exactly the same size and everything. But they take me aboard the ship. They're showing me around to some other aliens. I guess high-ranking officials or whatever. Um, it was very strange, because the more they contacted me, the more they gave me kind of a free pass to do what I wanted on board the ships. Um, and because if you read a lot of stories about UFOs and abductions, it's all the same: mass abductions, experiments, sexual experiments, making hybrid babies and stuff. I don't, you know, my experience is nothing like any book I've read. Um, well, they take me aboard the ship. We're on the ship, and they take me to what I call the playroom, which was a very large room with many different children. Um, some of the children were in pajamas. Some children were in school, like school uniforms. Some kids were in like regular clothes. We were all different races. We spoke different languages, but for some reason, when I was in this room, I could totally understand what they were saying. There were other children, which I would believe would be hybrids. They were like part human, part alienish. They had like really big blue eyes, you know, and they had like a I can't explain it. If you've ever seen like a child or somebody going through chemotherapy, how they lose some of, if they don't shave their head, they lose some of their hair, but some of the hair's still there. That's how some of these, what I would call the hybrid children, look like. They had like really stringy, like white hair, whitish blonde hair, but it wasn't thick. You know, it wasn't thick like, you know, that. It was like real thin. Um, Aboard this ship. Um, some of the older kids were playing Game Boys. Like, I mean, literally playing Game Boys. This was like 85, 86-ish, and I don't think Game Boys came out until they were playing like the newer game, not even the old first Game Boys. They were playing newer Game Boys. I don't think Game Boy even came out until like 93, 94-ish, I believe. At least that's when I think it hit the States. And I remember they were playing Tetris because I remember the sound. They were playing aboard the ship. There was other aliens, alien children, and there were children. There were children from like South Africa and so on and so on. I don't know how I know they were from South Africa. I just did. And but there was these three aliens which were very little and very scared, and they were sitting on this couch and they were just looking down. And two of them looked similar. The other one was completely different. They're what I would call reptilians because the one had really thick scales, and he was the one that was really freaking out. He was just like, you know, I mean, they weren't making eye contact. They weren't playing. Well, and then there was this lady. She had stone-washed blue jeans on. I remember a shirt and a flannel shirt over that. And I remember her talking to me, telling me that I needed to go play with the other children. And we kind of talked, and she said something about she had a very bad life, and some bad people were going to hurt her, and they took her, and now she's working for them, and she's happy now. And then I went and played with the other kids and so on and so on. There was lots of them. There was probably about 30 different kids, you know, humans. Probably about 20 aliens, 5 or 6 hybrids, those 3 lizard creatures. And we were playing. Well, oh, and there was like this thing. It was like a tube thing. It looked like something from Dr. Seuss. And I was standing under it looking at it, go, wow, what's that? You know, I remember one of the aliens came out and was like, get away from that. Well, basically, we played for a little while. I was kicking this big giant rubber ball around, and they kind of got mad at me because I mean, I was like kicking this ball like hard, bouncing off everybody. But years later, I realized that what they were doing was that they were studying human behavior. They were trying to get their species to interact and mimic as what the human children were doing. Um, you know, and then I never told anybody this story. Years later, I tell my friend Will. He has I think it's a YouTube or Facebook channel called Energy Field, and I did an interview with him. You know, it's the first person I've ever actually told this story to. And he kind of made me realize, as I was telling him the story, that they were studying human behavior, and the reason why some children were in pajamas, some children were in school uniforms, and some children were in regular clothes, were we were all taken from completely different time zones. Like there was Asian kids there, black kids there, white kids there, you know what I mean? Pretty much kids from all over the world. And we were taken from different time zones, and we were playing in this big room. Well, then they took me out of this room, and we went to other parts of the ship. Um, I know this sounds, people are like, you're freaking crazy, you're nuts. Well, I don't think I am. I mean, there was other children there playing with the other alien kids. There was different species of alien kids there. I mean, it wasn't all the same species, and they seemed to all be working together. Um, they never hurt me or nothing. Well, years later, okay. The abductions, it's weird. Well, not abductions, I call it contact. But a lot of times when I was a kid, they would come and they wouldn't take me aboard a spaceship. They wouldn't do medical experiments or nothing of that sorts. They would wake me up, and I had a king's bed. I remember it was really high up because I had to jump in it. It was like yay tall. Um, and they would get me up and tell me to get up. And there was always three of them, but two of them was always the same. One, he had chubbier cheeks. You know what I'm saying? He had chubbier cheeks. He didn't have the really bony look like a lot of the aliens do. He had chubbier cheeks. Um, he was kind of funny because he kind of would do like thumbs up at me and some human behavior, and he thought he was really cool because he could kind of interact with me more human-like. Um, I do know that during this time they were studying our TV, the TV shows that were playing. They were watching our TV. Um, they were trying to mimic us in a way. Um, well, they would sit down with me, and I would sit and talk to them, or they would talk to me as I played with my He-Mans. And I would play with my He-Mans because I still didn't like to look at them, even though they weren't mean. They never hurt me, nothing like that. And I would be playing with my He-Mans, and they would be telling me things, like things about religion, things about um, future events, which is now current events. Um, and, I mean, God, I literally have over 30 years of these stories. Um, well, I'm going on 33, so, I literally have 30 years of these stories. Um, I can't possibly touch them all. That just pretty much touches from the age of 3 when I first started seeing the medical, and then as I got older into, I'm going to say about 3rd grade. This is the timeline that these stories happened in. Like the watching the flat monitor TVs, the wars, the people getting shot and dying. They would put the emotions of the person dying inside me, so I could feel the hurt. I could feel the crying, of the lost life, and that's probably why I'm so against war. To let me know that these things are bad. They shouldn't happen. They never appeared to me as they were trying to take over our planet. I've never got that from them. Um, I never got that they were trying to hurt me, even though I'm pretty sure I hurt one of them pretty bad, maybe even killed one when I was, I, I'm going to say around between 18 and 22. Because now when they come, they paralyze my arms, where, I got some pretty big muscles. And, I think I might have fought them when I got older once, because they're not so I mean, they're still friendly, but they're not so hey, let's get out of bed. They kind of totally, completely paralyze me now when they come, especially my arms. Like I'll wake up, and I know they came because I literally cannot move either one of my arms. I mean, I cannot do it. I mean, I can barely move all I can move is my eyes. So I think one time, when I was becoming an adult, I think I might have became violent with them because they seriously take way more precautions with me now than they used to. When I was younger, I could do whatever I wanted around them. You know, go on spaceships, and I would run down the hall things and run back because they had like these lights that would follow you, and I would see if I could outrun the lights. You know, because as you walked, they lit up because really bright lights hurt their eyes. They actually have a like a contact in their eyes that I when you get on the ships, they can take the contacts out if they have the lights rolled in, and I can see really good at night. So they could dim the lights to their safe level, and I could still see. And they could take the contacts out, and they got bluish gray eyeballs. They got eyes like we do. And but then on the ships, you know, I would run down these halls, and that the lights would, you know, as you walk, they light up on these like kind of like handrails. They're I don't know if they're actual handrails, but they kind of look like handrails to me, like at like a hospital or something. And like they would light up, so I would just take off running, and stop, and then run back to see if I could outbeat the lights, but I couldn't because they would follow me. um, that's one of the things I would do that was kind of funny. Um, a couple other things that I would do on the ships is that uh, they would introduce me to other species. Some were really tall, some were short. The really tall ones were kind of, I don't know, they kind of freaked me out in a way because some of them was around, you know, 6, 7 foot tall, you know, and they have the really big eyes that like, I mean, they're crazy huge, they're big freaking eyes, and they got like the real skinny long nose that's flat, and then you know, but those I didn't like as much because they didn't seem to be too friendly, although they never hurt me or did anything bad. But there was many different species of these beings aboard. Um, some were, you know, really short. I mean, really short. I'm talking like damn near like maybe a foot and a half. And I seen ones that were close to, you know, 7 foot tall. Um, the only ones that really freaked me out were the ones that I think were flying the ships that they took me to. And I never saw the whole body, so I don't know if they were bipedal or what. But they literally had these arms, like, okay, their arms came up like this, and their hands folded over, I don't know, like folded over, and their heads, like their eyes were like up here, and I mean, they literally looked like praying mantises. And that was the only one, because when the thing looked at me, he went like this, and I, you know, I was real little, and I was down here, and there was like all these like electronics and stuff, and he went like this and looked at me, and went like that, and I'm not lying, I screamed like a little bitch. I mean, I was probably like 5 or 6, I was probably around 6 or 7 at that time, between the age of 5 and 7. And I flipped out when I seen that one because that was too much for me, you know, because it had the mouth, the little, it was, yeah, it freaked me out. If one like stood in front of me right now, I'd probably shit myself, honestly. It was pretty freaky. But you know, this is just one story. I mean, they go back for like, you know, I got pretty much 30 years of stories. The ones now are really interesting with the different creatures and the one guy. But you know, I mean, if you believe it or not, I don't know. I don't care. I just, you know, I'm letting this out there because there has to be somebody that had the like playroom experience with all the different kids. There has to be somebody. Um, you know, I don't know what they were. I don't know if they were Zen and Reticuli. I honestly think the taller ones were Zen and Reticuli. I don't know. They never said, "Hey, I'm from here and my species is called this." That never happened. You know. Um, so this is my little story. I kept it under an hour, and that's just like between the age of 3 and like probably 7, 8. And I have way more stories than that.